Hey Internet, it's RJ. Welcome back. Thanks for tuning into the show today. Now, in today's episode, we are going to talk all about credit limits, more specifically, how to get a credit limit increase. So, we'll cover what a credit limit is, how it works, we'll cover why you'd want to increase it, all the different ways you can actually go about increasing your credit limit. There are a few. Then, we'll close with some definite things you want to keep in mind if you're going down this path. So, if you're tired of balling on a budget and want to start balling outrageous, then go ahead, press the subscribe button, and let's get to work. So, what is a credit limit increase? Well, I love here when things are straightforward and named exactly what they should be. A credit limit increase is the act of increasing that credit limit. So in this example, you had a $100 credit limit on that card, and $100 is again not actually enough to buy something like this. So maybe you want to increase it to $200, $300, $500, whatever it may be. That is what we call a credit limit increase, and this is going to walk you through how to request and successfully get a credit limit increase from your card issuer. Okay, so now that we know what a credit limit is and how it works, why would you actually want to do it, aside from buying some headphones here? Well, normally, if you're just starting out in the credit game, 18, 19, 20 years old, your first credit card, your first credit limit is going to be very small. I think mine was about $500 when I first got into the game on some credit union credit card that was just vanilla, no rewards back in the day, and that's completely normal and completely fine. Again, at that early point in the game, the goal is to start building in credit, putting in the reps, not necessarily worried about having a huge line of credit or points or anything like that. But as you get older, unfortunately, it's a fact of life that purchases don't get any cheaper, so you're probably going to want to increase your purchase power, right? Like how much credit you have available at your disposal. And number two, increasing your credit limit is actually going to help your credit score in the long run. You see, it's tied to what they call credit utilization. What credit utilization looks at is how much total available revolving lines of credit you have across all of your cards versus how much you're actually using. So in theory, with credit utilization, the more credit you have access to, it allows you to use more of your credit and not get dinged a lot on your credit score. So for example, if you have $1,000 in total credit, revolving credit available to you, and you again make your $100 purchase on our severely discounted headphones here, now you're talking about a 10% credit utilization rate. So we stick with this credit utilization rate example. Now let's say you have access to $2,000 as opposed to $1,000. You make that same $100 purchase. Instead of having a 10% credit utilization, now you're down to 5% credit utilization just for having more credit because of the power of how math and fractions work. So that is another benefit of increasing your credit limit. And so one more thing to note here, generally when we're talking about credit limit increases, we're talking about on an individual card level. So let's just say you're someone with only one or two cards and you have no real interest in getting more credit cards. This will also allow you to help your credit utilization out and go ahead and increase that purchase power on those one or two cards you have without applying for more cards if you don't want to. But of course, we've got a ton of card videos here on the channel, so check out the archives and maybe I can convince you that more cards is not actually a bad thing. But anyways, those are the top reasons why you'd want to do it. Now let's take a look at some average credit limits across the generations here based on credit score, and then we'll get into the reasons of how you actually go about accomplishing this. So this chart here shows us the average credit limits based on generation and their average FICO credit scores. Now this isn't based on one individual card, but this is more of their total access to credit limits. So you can see the Gen Z, the young folks here just starting out, about $8,000, and really that's not bad considering they're just starting out building credit. And you can see through millennials, Gen X, baby boomers, and the silent generation. Okay, so now let's get into the good stuff. How do we actually do this? And there's a few different ways. So the first one's actually very easy. Some card issuers actually just do auto reviews of your account every 6 months, every year, what have you. They take a look at your account, or they're always monitoring, and sometimes you'll actually get emails or pop-up offers in your account saying, hey, would you like a credit limit increase, or you're eligible for a credit limit increase. Sometimes you just have to answer a few quick questions, maybe verify some income for them. Now, something that plays a part into this automated review approach is sometimes, I don't know, if I log into my Chase account or even my Amex account, you'll get a pop-up that says, hey, would you like to update your information? And they'll ask you about updated contact information, addresses, and they'll also have a pop-up that says, hey, can you update your income as well? So if you've gotten a new job, you've gotten into some new investments, paying out dividends, what have you, you can update your total gross income, and that also plays a part and helps them kind of, one, do the credit limit increase if they want, but really I think they're kind of asking you so they can know where you're at and trying to target more products towards you depending on what they're trying to push. But it can definitely work in your favor to keep that information updated as well should you get one of those pop-ups. Now, by far the biggest way that most folks are going to be able to accomplish this is simply by phoning into the bank and asking about a credit limit increase. Now, this is pretty straightforward, but there's definitely some questions you want to make sure you focus on. Number one, you're going to want to see what their policies and procedures are for this. Primarily speaking, you want to see if this is going to be a hard pull on your credit, which will show up on your credit report, or if it's going to be a soft pull, which means they just kind of do a soft inquiry, see your information, and then they can approve you like that. Now, ultimately, one hard pull is not really going to be the end of the world, but you still want to know what you're getting into and what it requires before you go ahead and approve it. Now, one other thing you're going to want to ask about is, are there any fees or charges associated with a credit limit increase? Now, for the most part, there shouldn't be, but I have come across on occasion some data points that say folks were being charged to increase their credit limit. So if it is the case and they are charging, I probably wouldn't bother with it and look elsewhere for better financial products, but you definitely want to make sure you ask that question as well. And then number three, and this is more of a newer thing in my opinion, but you're going to want to have a reason as to why you're requesting the credit limit. Now, normally they don't really care, right? Again, it's just a representative on the phone. They don't really care. But in my experience, as of late, dealing with banks and financial institutions, I'm getting asked more and more about the reasons I want to do things. And I think this is all related to pandemic and the economic recession and all of that. For example, I call in Chase reconsideration line to, get a credit card approval. And they're like, well, what do you need the card for? What they're really trying to do is trip you up and see if you'll be super honest and say, hey, I need this to make rent or pay my bills or something, right? Then they're going to deny you. But really, the reasons we just kind of talked about, maybe you do want more purchase power, maybe you've been making on-time payments and you just want to see what you can get, credit utilization, all those are perfectly fine reasons. I'm not saying they will ask you for one, but at least as of late, I've gotten a lot of questions on my banking stuff when talking to banks, both in person and over the phone, so just keep that in mind. But any reason we talked about in the beginning should do fine to cover this question. Again, they just need an answer to plug into the box and keep it moving. What's generally going to happen is you'll probably get put on hold, and the rep will take a look through your profile. They're just looking again at your account history, your balances, your payment history, all that good stuff. And of course, they're probably running something on their side of the house that gives a number that they're comfortable as a lender handing out to you. And so you'll be on hold for a little bit, but it should be a fairly quick decision one way or the other, especially if you get one of those pre-approved offers or you've just updated your income recently. Shouldn't be too bad there. So with that said, it is important to know the different card issuers' rules on when you can and can't apply for a credit limit increase. So I've got on screen now some of the biggest card issuers here. Now, we're not going to run through all of them, but you can see the biggest ones here. So Amex, your account needs to be open for 60 days before you can request a credit limit increase. Chase, on the other hand, is claiming they review accounts periodically to offer automatic credit limit increases. So there's no firm rule on how often your credit line increases directly, but it's advised to have an account open for at least 6 months. Definitely just take note, depending on who your issuer is, it doesn't make any sense to call in before you've reached the account timeline. And of course, why did they do this? Why do they have timelines? Well, one, banks are trying to mitigate risk and protect themselves. In the shortest amount of time, you take Amex, for example. 6 months is a good enough time to see a lot of on-time payments and behavior from card holders. And then it's also going to give them time to, see how you behave and how you handle it, and then figure out what kind of customer you are, if they want to extend you more credit or not. So it's really just for them to protect themselves. But as a result, definitely check out that chart. I'll link to it down below. So if you are interested, I wouldn't bother calling before those timelines. And of course, the best time to actually request a credit limit increase is off of something like an income increase, or you've got 6, 8, 12 months of consistent on-time payments, things like that. You've been demonstrating good behavior. Now, you probably want to avoid asking for a credit limit increase on a specific card. Obviously, if you've missed a payment as of late within the last year, or if you've just applied for a lot of different cards all at once, especially from the same card issuer, especially if they're going to do a hard pull and be able to see all those new account inquiries. And the reason for that is, again, there's no context given with account inquiries, right? So just because you and I know that you really want the sign-up bonus for the brand new Citi Custom Cash Card, for example, if you're applying to Bank of America doesn't know that. So they're like, hey, you just applied for a card a week ago. This could be a sign of you just need a lot of capital right away and you're going through credit cards. I don't know. I don't want any part of it. So for that reason, I would hold off on asking for this if you just applied for a lot of different cards all at once. Now, if you are someone like me and you have a lot of cards and you don't necessarily want to go in and increase the credit limit of one, but you just have, let's say, unused credit over here on a card you don't use often, you can in fact do what's called a credit limit transfer to another card. So let's just say, for example, I have my Chase Freedom Flex card. That's $1,500 quarterly in rotating categories, and over here you have your Freedom Unlimited. Well, the Freedom Flex actually has, like, let's say $5,000 in credit limit, and over here the Freedom Unlimited has $1,000. Well, I'm never really going to spend more than $1,500 in a quarter on my Freedom Flex card. So really having $5,000 is excessive. On the other hand, your Freedom Unlimited is your catch-all card at 1.5, so I might spend much more than $1,000 in a given time. So you can phone in and just say, hey, I want to transfer, let's just say $3,000 from the Flex straight over to my Freedom Unlimited card. Now that should not require a hard pull, a soft pull, anything like that. That should just be you calling in, verifying who you are, then they should help you out. Now it is important to note, you can only do this from personal card to personal card. You cannot go from personal to business or business to personal and vice versa. Now, one more thing to throw in here that's not necessarily directly related to increasing your credit limit on an individual card, but if you wanted to go after more credit utilization, there are certain cards or certain types of cards that require minimum credit limits. So for example, the Sapphire Reserve is a Visa Infinite card, and Visa Infinite cards, I think the minimum credit limit they have to issue is $10,000. So if you wanted to get a higher credit limit or higher credit utilization, I should say, then you could look at applying for higher tier cards like that, knowing that the credit is going to come with it. Just be aware that most of those cards, when you get the Visa Infinite, MasterCard World Elite type deals, that those cards are generally going to come with annual fees and be a more intermediate to expert level mode. So if that's something you're into, then cool, but if not, then probably take a look at some of the other options we just covered. And so there you have it, guys. That's everything you need to know on how to increase your credit limit on any one of your cards. Now, of course, obligatory financial content creator disclaimer here. This is a great strategy, and I've used multiple of these myself. Of course, just make sure you're doing it responsibly. Credit is a tool, and if used responsibly and correctly, then you're going to get great results. But you already knew that already. So anyways, guys, if you like this one, drop me a thumbs up down below. If you found it particularly interesting, consider subscribing to the channel. Posting content just like this every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, along with a recap episode on Sundays. It's all the news you can use in the week that was in credit and finance. My question for you guys is, let me know down below what strategies you have used to get the credit limit increase. How high has your bank actually let you go with credit limit wise, if you feel like disclosing that as well, and anything else, any other notes you'd like to add on this topic as well. Love to hear from you guys and help the community learn. Anyways, guys, that's going to do it for this one. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I'll talk to you in the next one.